So I'm Kate. I'm your worship associate today. In 2006, Brian and I were traveling in Ecuador. We were lucky enough to get to stay in a lodge on the Rio Napo in the Amazon rainforest. This lodge was the kind of place that makes you feel like you're both indoors and outdoors at the same time. During our time at this lodge, our guide would take us on various activities. These included nature hikes, fishing for piranha, and the one I was most interested in, visiting a local shaman. The night before our visit to the shaman, it rained so hard that the Rio Napo, an Amazon River tributary, rose 4 feet overnight. As we prepared for our adventure, the rain continued. Brian and I were placed in a small tour group that consisted of 4 college kids, which I will refer to as the kids, our tour guide, David, and Brian and I. 7 people and 2 canoes. Brian and I shared the first one with our guide, while the 4 kids shared the second one. The journey to the shaman's house was across the Rio Napo and mostly all downstream. It was a beautiful morning, making our way there, and the rain had let up, which made for a calm and relaxing direction in one way. When we reached the shore on the other side, we mucked our way from the small wooden canoe to a home on stilts near the water's edge. Honestly, I can't remember a whole lot from the shaman, but I do remember listening to the rain coming down much harder than it had been earlier in the day. I remember our guide's ambivalence about trying to cross back upstream. So when we set out to return to our lodge across the river, upstream, in heavy rain, in a swollen river, I was glad to be in the canoe with the guide. Brian, our guide David, and I set out first. The kids followed behind. We started slow, working our way against the current. As we ventured further toward the center of the river, the guide's tone changed dramatically. He no longer shared stories about flora and fauna, but he began to change his paddle strokes and directed us to do the same. He shouted at the kids in the other canoe. They got themselves moving in the wrong direction. Brian, David, and I had to backtrack toward them so he could advise them on how to move forward again, back to all of our belongings, dinner, dry clothes. Finally, we were all moving in the same direction, but the kids drifted again and again and again. We missed our turnoff. You see, the whole Amazon transportation system is water-based. And the confluence of the smaller river that would get us back to our lodge was in sight, but not in reach. David shouted his orders, when to paddle fast, when to paddle deep. He was in charge, but the river was overpowering. I remember sitting in the canoe, paddling harder in a way I had never done any physical activity before in my life, like I was saving my life. Crying, paddling, praying. I didn't do a whole lot of that before. We missed our exit. Our wooden canoe and the kids behind us all started moving quickly downstream. Later, Brian and I shared with each other that we wondered how many days it would take before we ended up in the ocean. With some group effort, a whole lot of sweat, tears, and adrenaline, we got close enough to the shore that our guide reached out and was able to grab a tree branch. This is how we found our way back to land. We reached, we paddled, we reached, we paddled, and finally we parked ourselves. Brian and I hopped out onto the shore as quickly as possible, and we pulled the canoe out of the water. David shouted to the kids over and over again, advising them where to reach, where to grab, where to find a landing spot. Later that evening, once a larger boat with a motor had been alerted to come and rescue us from the shore and bring us back upstream to the safety of our lodge, I remember a feeling that was new. This was my first experience of complete powerlessness in the face of nature. Once we were safe, it was clear how insignificant we truly were. Our guide had the skills and experience to help us, but it's also true that people drown this way. As I laid in my hammock that night, listening to the buzzing of the insects, the heat and humidity sinking in around us, I felt like I was part of something much larger than myself. I had been seeking a spiritual experience with a local shaman, but nature held me in its intensity. Just like any other small creature, insect, branch, or tree chunk, just like the rest of it all, I traveled back to where I needed to be, held by the forces that are much larger than we think we are.
In a poem titled, "When I Am Among the Trees," good old Mary Oliver wrote, "When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me, the trees stir in their leaves and call out, 'Stay a while.' The light flows from their branches, and they call again. 'It's simple,' they say, 'and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine.'" Yeah. It has been only in the last 20 years that I have felt like I'm a spiritual being. Before then, I assumed that if you don't have a concept of God or Buddha or Allah, you can't experience spirituality. Becoming a UU changed that, and I learned about a different pathway to spirituality through nature. Many people experience the sacred when we are present in nature. And for me, the forest has always felt magical and mystical. I just needed to tune in to the spirituality that had always been there, waiting for me to notice. Finding my sacred in the forest feels somewhat surprising because none of the icons or guideposts of religion are there. There are no crosses, no Jesus, no ministers, priests, or monks. But spirituality is kind of a vague thing. It's often separated from religion, which seems much more concrete. I'm Catholic. I'm Muslim. Yeah, that's pretty clear. When I'm in the forest, I'm more in touch with my senses. I'm in touch with some otherness, something that transcends the spirit or the individual self, something that gives meaning to life on a deeper level. It's a level that's not necessarily ruled by the intellect. It's a spiritual experience that's more intuitive. In the forest, I feel awe. I feel carried along and inspired by something I see or touch or smell, something that humans didn't create and don't rule over. I find it hard to describe in words why nature is my path to spirituality, but I feel it, and I enjoy that feeling of connection and the lack of human manipulation in that place. I'm physically present and embraced by something that is larger, something that is otherworldly, It's loving and familiar, yet at the same time mysterious. Being in the forest allows me to break open to that sacred connection. I'm wondering, does anyone go to the forest as part of your spiritual practice? Oh, hello. Maybe we want to do a service out there someday. There's a lot of us. We live in a place that is blessed with abundant trees and forests. It's amazing. They seem to be everywhere, whispering to us, come in here, slow down, breathe deeply, let go of your constant noisy thoughts, get into your senses. I love the life force of the forest, the sense of being a traveler who is invited into sacred space. From time immemorial, humans have found a deep connection to trees and forests, places where they encountered spirit in ways that were and still felt rather than explained. The Babylonian tale of Gilgamesh tells us that life began when a tree grew on the banks of the Euphrates River. For the ancient Mayan culture, a sacred tree connected the three parts of the world. The roots reached down into the underworld, the trunk held human existence, and the branches reached up into the heavens. The Japanese Shinto religion depicts the gods and goddesses coming down from heaven and living in pine trees. Trees were sacred. They were divine. Today, human scientists are finally catching up. They are researching forests and trees, and they're seeing what these religious worshipers knew by intuition. The forest is a sacred place, a place where there is another kind of intelligence and a deep community of the spirit, a place where all of the life there is connected and interwoven. The trees, the roots, the mycelium of the fungi, the insects and the birds, the animals, the plants, all of them are an integral part of this mysterious, magical place that offers us ancient wisdom and healing for our mind and our body and our soul. So I'd like to invite you to take a spiritual walk with me in the forest to feel the sacred in its ability to reconnect us to our ancient selves. You might wish to look at that picture. You don't need to look at me. We all know what I look like. You may wish to close your eyes. Okay, let's start. The first thing we see is the trees. So many trees. Some are straight, tall. Others are bent over and gnarled. Each one is beautiful in its own special way. In the winter, these trees are bare, showing the shapes of their strong, powerful trunks and their branches. In early spring, tiny buds are forming all over the tips of those branches, way up high. Trees don't lie. Spring is here. In the summer, the foliage is green, it's voluminous. In the forest, the trees are covering the sky, except there's a sliver of sunshine coming through here and there and over there. Look up. Look up. It feels like we are in a cathedral, but better. Because a cathedral is impressive, yes, but it was built by human architects and workers. Who or what built this divine cathedral? Why does it reach inside us and thrill us? How did this place, so perfect in every way, come to be? How did we come to be? As we walk deeper into the forest, the sounds of civilization fade away. We find ourselves breathing more deeply, more evenly. Perhaps it's quiet enough to hear the sound of our feet moving, quiet enough to hear our hearts beating. Oh, wait, listen to the birds. They have a lot to say in their lovely lilting language. Maybe there's a babbling brook, maybe a waterfall. Let's continue to walk, but slower. We want to take in everything that our senses can experience. Wow, look at that. Ferns, large and lush and green, loving their lives. And we see a dead tree on the ground. And even in its death, it continues to give back to the forest, replenishing the soil, sprouting new baby trees, providing safe homes and food for the insects. It reminds us of the cycle of life and death, and that perhaps death is life taking another form. Perhaps death is not something to be feared. The forest floor is messy. It's messy. It's a tangle of branches and blackberry bushes and plants of all kinds and mature trees and baby trees, and it's overflowing with life. Look ahead. You'll see a tiny brown rabbit hopping across the path. Watch out for the coyotes, little one. Let's stand still for a moment. Breathe in. What does it smell like? The earth? The plants? A flower? The trees? Life? Touch a tree. Come on, don't be sensible. Touch the tree. Hug it if you want to. Feel its distinctive bark. Feel the life in there, how solid it is. Maybe even say hello and wish it well. Think about all that the tree has given to us, even though we never even asked. It shades us from the hot sun. It gives us oxygen, fresh air, beauty, a sense of who we are. When you strip away all of the armor we wear as part of our modern life, it gives us a sense that we are one part of a larger living world that is connected in every way. Look down now, look down. Some mushrooms are growing nearby. Well, we know that those mushrooms are attached to an underground network that is called mycelium. You are standing on the most amazing network in the world, the underground wood wide web. You can't see it, but underneath the surface, there's a mass of interconnecting threads. These threads actually can cover the entire floor of the forest, sending help and sustenance to the trees and the plants, helping the trees to communicate with each other. Did you know that trees communicate with each other? Because they do. It's not surprising that so many of us are able to sense our spirituality in the forest. The forest offers us a place to renew ourselves, as well as to feel our connection to the earth. Knowing that the roots and the mycelium are feeding the trees and the fungi and the plants, and they are reminding us to take time and understand the connections that we have with our own roots. Our potential to grow and deepen as human beings is similar to the ability of the trees to take sustenance from the earth and branch out. We just need to slow down, breathe deeply, be quiet, and take in all that there is in the forest as we deepen our connection to our spirit, to our soul. Mary Oliver has often written poems about the forest, and she captures its sacredness so eloquently. In a poem titled "Sleeping in the Forest," she wrote, "I thought the earth remembered me. She took me back so tenderly, arranging her dark skirts, her pockets full of lichens and seeds. I slept as never before, a stone on the riverbed. Nothing between me and the white fire of the stars but my thoughts. floated light as moths among the branches of the perfect trees. All night I heard the small kingdoms breathing around me, the insects and the birds who do their work in the darkness. All night I rose and fell as if in water, grappling with a luminous doom. By morning, I had vanished at least a dozen times into something better. Let's take one more moment to sit comfortably in silence, maybe close our eyes again, and experience the quiet majesty of the forest before we re-enter the world.